What's up, everybody? We are back at it. In today's video, I'm going to be going over what I've learned in my first 5,000 deliveries using Doordash and Uber Eats. In this video, we're going to be going month by month, looking at the earnings and the expenses and what I learned over each month. Be sure to smash that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already for more content on how to maximize your potential using side hustles like Doordash and Uber Eats. But with that said, let's get right into this. All right. So right here, we got December of 2022. So this is the first month that I actually started using the Doordash app. Little backstory about it. I had just left Dunkin' and I had already accepted an offer at Wendy's. But there was a little lag time. I had like 3 weeks in between, which I planned one of the weeks, but not two. When I put in my 2-week notice at Dunkin', they let me go immediately. So went ahead, got on the apps, and we signed up for DoorDash. It was a rude awakening. What I learned in this month is that one, I suck. I don't know what I'm doing. I need help. And I was desperately, I could not wait to start my W-2 because I just felt like I was picking up nickels out there. I know some of you guys may have seen my last video, the snow video, where I made almost $500. Well, we had a similar snow day in this month here, and I struggled. I was in every single hood deli, every bad McDonald's in the hood. I locked my keys in my car 2 times. It was a rough day. And after that day, I didn't even make $200. I was out for like 8, 9, maybe even 10 hours. I don't remember, but I didn't even make $200. And that's when I was like, man, there's got to be a better way of doing this. So I went on YouTube, and that's when I found guys like Your Driver Mike, Bentley, the dude on the scooter, best fastest dasher alive, or best dasher alive, the guy on the scooter. and I learned about $25 an hour, how acceptance rate doesn't matter. I learned those type of things after the fact of me going out there and struggling real bad. I see the hourly's $16, $15 an hour. That $11.70, I made that in like 2 weeks of work. And yeah, your boy could not wait to get into the W-2. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I was ready to get to the W-2. I just felt like I was running my car in the ground. And here, it's all DoorDash. I didn't have Uber Eats at the time. I just got DoorDash just for some filler income before I started back at Wendy's. Get into January. So January, I started at Wendy's. I started January 1st or the 2nd or whatever was the first Monday in January. That's when I started at Wendy's. So this month, I was just doing it part-time. But as I was doing it part-time, I was kind of practicing what I had learned in those Your Driver Mike videos and Bentley Coupe videos and the dude on the scooter videos about just not accepting everything and learning that there is an hourly income I should be striving to, which is $25 an hour. And the hourly, it didn't quite go up as much, but also I wasn't driving like during peak times because I was working. So I was just going out when I could. But there was one day in this January, it was a Saturday, and I had decided, I was off from the W-2. I decided to go out all day on that Saturday. And I made like $280. And it kind of opened up my eyes. Like, wow, I could make some money doing this. So I had my first $200 plus day. And that was like unbelievable for me. But just practicing what I did. I did good during the peak times. And I did below average during the non-peak times. But, January was just really practicing what I had learned. And seeing how and when that stuff proved to be beneficial. So, and still only DoorDash. So $14.32 on the DoorDash. Hourly's low, $16.57. But you know, hey, I had a W-2, right? I didn't really need it. The next couple months. So if we got February and we got March. Really didn't do that much gig work. The W-2 was really starting to take over. I had got out of my training and I was in my role, and it was a hot mess that I took over. It was terrible. So I was pretty much I was knee deep in that situation. But in that process, I kept watching the gig content because I was getting better at the gig work, and once I started to dive into the rabbit hole, I wanted to learn more. So that's when I discovered people like Nugs, like More Finance, like Pedro, and their background. They had a similar background as I. They were all former restaurant managers of some level, and then they decided to get into gig work and make a YouTube channel. And I'm thinking in my head, like, hey, I could do this. I could do this. But February was just 6/28/23. All DoorDash. March, we didn't even get out on the road at all. It was that bad in March. February and March was really just me discovering more gig tubers and seeing like there's a space for this type of content out here. And that's when I started watching a lot of gig content during that time when I wasn't getting killed at the W-2. Which moves us on to April. So in April, that's when I gave my notice to the W-2. I had no support. I had no type of bench when it came to my managers. Quality of life was super poor. The road to the end was gonna take way too long. And I've done this before. This struggle that I'm going through at the W-2, the end goal isn't even anything that's gonna satisfy me, because this is my fourth go around at pretty much doing the same thing. So gave my notice to the W-2. In that process, got on Uber Eats, got on Grubhub, downloaded Solo so we could track those miles since we was going to go full time and really start going into it. And once we got on Uber Eats, we started practicing multi-apping. And man, multi-apping, it was really overwhelming, really stressful at first. And it seemed like it was going to be tough. But here we did $308 in the short time that we was able to come out in April, and did a $1.51 per mile. So $1.51 per mile. And here we got $245 on DoorDash, $59 on Uber Eats. So, you know, nothing too much. So now we're going to move on to our first full-time month doing gig work, which is in May. And bang. So we made $6,336 in the month of May, drove 4,000 miles, averaged $21.95 an hour. So finally we're above what Solo says is the Cleveland average. And what I learned this month is that, one, I can consistently make $200 a day. Every day that I was out in May, there was always something after I analyzed my day I could have done better. And I was still making $200 a day. Realize the power of declining. You really don't have to accept all of the orders. Now back then in May, I was a full-on cherry picker on DoorDash. So I did not have a 70% acceptance rate at the time. It was in the teens most of the times on DoorDash and Uber Eats. And then the LOP. There was a video that I was watching with Pedro. He was calling support trying to get on the LOP. And when I saw that video, I decided that I'm going to go on the DoorDash app and buy my catering bag through the DoorDash app in hopes that I could get on the LOP. So, how I got on the LOP, I didn't even contact support. All I did was just buy the DoorDash catering bag off of my account on the DoorDash store. And eventually got on LOP. But we ended up doing a mile, $1.58 per mile. So, we're increasing our efficiency in the month of May, especially from the first 4 months. Now we're going to get to June. Oh, there's the breakdown. So on DoorDash, we did $46.45, Uber Eats $16.88, which gave us our total there. Now we're in the month of June, and the first thing that I realized, so let me backtrack a little bit. In the month of May, I got my invite to the LOP. So after I saw the video of Pedro trying to get on the LOP, I went ahead and bought the catering bag, and shortly after, in the middle of the month in May, I got on the LOP.
Right, y'all, we got this, and we got that. Oh,
yes, sir.
I hope the camera catches this one.
Yes,
Look at that.
Sir.
and that really opened my eyes. But in May, I saw LOP orders. It wasn't like that though, I would say. But in June, I was really seeing a lot of large orders, and really discovered that the LOP is a glitch. The LOP goes crazy. That's what we discovered in the month of June. And then also the east side of the east side of my market, it smacks completely differently for dinner. Starting off, we did the Parmesan, which is the west side, all day, all night. That's the only zone we did. We didn't want to go to the east side because, one, we don't live over there, so we didn't want to make that drive. And then two, the perception of the east side here in Cleveland is that it's more dangerous, it's more crime over there. Maybe the tips aren't as good. The perception is the tips are better on the west side. But the east side, there's plenty. There's so many customers. On the east side, you're going to run into the people that tip. You're going to run into the non-tippers. You're going to run into the assholes. You're going to run into everything on the east side. So you just got to take the good with the bad. But east side dinner, man, is way different than the west side dinner. And before, I was making more money during lunch than I was dinner. But once I started going to the east side, dinner time started becoming my prime earning time. We started watching a guy, Sin City Deliveries, Richard. And we found out that the DoorDash tier system was going to be coming over, which is going to totally change up how we dash. We no longer wasn't going to be able to just cherry pick. Now, the tiers have not hit my market yet, but I know one day the tier system is going to hit. So I knew I had to prepare because I just got this large order program and I was not trying to lose it at all. So we started going for Top Dasher.
We're going to say it right now on camera. I'm accepting every order until I get to like 75%. Oh gosh, I'm about to be miserable. I'm definitely done got my hands on the most garbage stack I've ever taken in my life. It's 10:50 going 16 miles. Accepting every order, it just gives me anxiety, man. It makes, it's really irking my nerves. It's chapping my ass. It's all, any simile you can think of, metaphor, simile, I don't even know. Accepting every order, this makes this so unfun, and I hate it. I cannot fucking stand it. I really can't. I don't even smoke, but this makes me want to smoke. It just really does.
Which was a horrible experience. Grinding that acceptance rate from the teens or wherever it was to 70% or higher was a real grind. And it really, really sucked. But in that process, we discovered the Cleveland Heights zone. So once we started going for Top Dasher and accepting every order, we relied on peak pay to kind of help ease the blow. So Cleveland Heights is the zone in my market that has a lot of peak pay. So we figured, hey, let's go over to the Cleveland Heights zone while we're accepting every order. That way, at least some of the blows eased by the peak pay that happens. But what we ended up discovering there is that almost every time we drop off an order, we're near some strip where there's restaurants and grocery. Like there in the other zones, in the Bedford-Garfield zone and in the Parma zone, there's a lot of driving back to your zone that happens before you could get another order. But in the Cleveland Heights zone, there's just strips of food and grocery everywhere, scattered everywhere throughout the zone. So as we're driving over there, going for Top Dasher, we're realizing, dang, there's a lot of areas here that we can pick up an order. And as we start getting higher and higher up and our priority started kicking in, we also noticed once we have priority, we're not seeing a lot of the orders that you don't want to see in that zone. A lot of the orders were just keeping us in the good areas of the zone. And it opened my eyes to Cleveland Heights, because I tried Cleveland Heights as a non-Top Dasher. It was nowhere near as good of an experience. But we ended up finishing that month with $1.45 per mile, which is it could have been better, but since we went for Top Dasher the last half of the month, it just murdered my dollar per mile. But man, that's what we learned in the month of June. So now we moved to July. This is our first month as a Top Dasher. I keep forgetting a business breakdown. We did 6,000 on Doordash, 500 on Uber Eats. Anyway, over to July. This is our first month as a Top Dasher. We ready to make that money, man. So first thing we learned, peak pay is so much better when you have Top Dasher. When we did not have Top Dasher, we hated peak pay because it took so long for orders to come to the phone. Not with Top Dasher. When you have Top Dasher, those orders come to your phone at the same frequency, but it has way better pay because of the peak pay. And Cleveland Heights is the premier zone. It's the premier zone in my market. It just is. All the good spots is there, and it just definitively became the premier zone in my market, at least in my mind. Maybe others think different, and if you do, that's cool. But Cleveland Heights was a premier zone. We did $6,915 in the month of July. We drove 4,300 miles. And that ended up to be $1.61 per mile, average $26.97 an hour. And then we look at the breakdown for July: 6,000 on Doordash, $400 on Uber Eats. So when we're Top Dasher, we're not utilizing Uber Eats anywhere near as much as we was before. But now we're gonna move on to August. So in August, the month of August, we did 6648 and we drove 4,100 miles, which ended up being $1 per mile, 1.59, doing 25.22 an hour. August was kind of a struggle. It was maybe the first month that we kind of felt that there was some sort of summer slowdown. But what we realized in this month, because it got slower, we started using Uber Eats a little bit more, and we discovered that you can be a top dasher and still multi-app. Just because you're a top dasher doesn't mean multi-apping is out of the window. You can still multi-app and maintain top dasher status. And the pause button on DoorDash, the pause button on DoorDash is a powerful button. That's what we ended up learning in the month of August. And yeah. And look at the breakdown here. So we did 2621 on Uber Eats, and we did 4,026 on DoorDash. So still mostly DoorDash, but we added more Uber Eats into the rotation. So let's move on to September. Boom. So September, we did 5862. We drove only 3,300 miles. And that ended up being $1 per mile of 1.75. And we did 26.21 an hour. So, and in this month, we ended up cutting down to 5 days. Because one, football season is back, so I needed my Sundays. But I also needed to have a day for me and wifey, so we could also have our date nights and do stuff like that. So I ended up I've cut it myself to 5 days a week. And what we learned in September, we just learned how to improve efficiency, right? We learned that we can multi-app and still maintain DoorDash. Now, this month, we just multi-apped a little bit better. And look at the breakdown. So, 2,100 on Uber Eats, 3,700 on DoorDash. So, hey, not too bad, not too bad. Moving on, we got October. So in the month of October, we did 5,917, and we drove 3,200 miles, which ended up being $1 per mile of 1.82, and we did 27.37 an hour. And what we discovered in the month of October is Uber Eats. Uber Eats is that boy. Uber Eats is like that. We really started to get comfortable with Uber Eats and really started to understand the algorithm and how the algorithm works on Uber Eats. I talk about the algorithm all the time. I also have a video about Uber Eats, 5 things you need to understand. I'll put it on the screen for you guys. But really, the main thing that we really learn about Uber Eats is that after you take your first couple orders on Uber Eats, you get a lot more orders sent to your phone. And then also you gotta watch out. There's a lot more hidden tips on Uber Eats to find than I thought of in the beginning. So I'm just really discovering that Uber Eats could get like that. It can get like that. It can do something for you. That's what we learned in October. So now we in the next month. This month of November, we did 59.20.76. We drove 32.13 in mileage, and we averaged, and the $1 per mile, was 1.84, and we did 27.97 an hour. And in the month of November, we are starting to reach our peak confidence in how the algorithms work on DoorDash and Uber Eats. We're really starting to get there on our confidence level on how those apps work and how we need to work the apps. And that Uber Eats can carry you if you know how to work it. If you know how to work Uber Eats, it can carry you. And we look at the breakdown here. We did more in Uber Eats than we did DoorDash. We did 2,500 on DoorDash, 3,415 on Uber Eats. So we really cleaned up on Uber Eats this month and put DoorDash on the back burner. We had to put it on the back burner, man. So now we move to the month of December. In the month of December, we really just put everything all together. So in the month of December, we made $71.60. We drove 3,900 miles. $1 per mile is 1.82. Average 28.26 an hour. And yeah, in this month, we just put everything we learned. Now we're starting to really hit our groove on where we're at with these two apps. And looking at the breakdown here, we did $32.67 on Uber Eats, $38.92 on Doordash, and this is just putting everything together, having full confidence in what's going on, and being able to execute and fine tune our plan so that we can be consistent in our approach every single day. Now we get to the end of the year. So in the year of 2023, and this is basically from May to December, we made $53,665. We drove 30,958 miles. My year dollar per mile is 1.73, and we averaged 25.10 an hour for the year. So that's what we did. That's what we did for the year. My goals for 2024, I want to have a 2-to-1 or higher dollar per mile for the year of 2024. I want to bring up my yearly hourly average from $25.10 to at least $28 an hour. And the third goal I have for myself is I want to stabilize financially, so I'm working less hours during non-peak times. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's just a little breakdown of everything that happened for me in 2023, bringing you guys behind the curtain into the mind of the evolution of driving throughout the year. But yeah, I'm gonna see you guys on the next video, man.